Good, let's go. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the February 21st regular meeting of the Inland Wetlands Agency. Lisa, please call the roll.
Daniel Bedecker,
Here.
Ranjit Bahav, Brian Black,
Here.
Jim Connors,
Here.
Nick Ritchie,
Here.
Matthew Connors,
Here.
Steve Munson,
Here.
Julie Valvo,
Here.
Brendan Magnan.
Here. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As we call the meeting to order, just as a friendly reminder, as we continue to host remote meetings, this meeting is being broadcast, will be broadcast on YouTube and will be posted on the City of Milford website in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act and Governor Lamont's executive orders. During the meeting, please raise your hand or look for me to recognize you as before speaking. When you speak, please announce yourself for the record. And speak only to the jurisdiction of the Milford Inland Wetlands Agency. At this time, I'd like to invite everybody to unmute themselves and join me by standing and joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the
Flag.
of the United States of America,
to the
to the republic
For the
republic
stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. If everyone can mute themselves, thanks, Mary Rose, for the flag. Moving on to the next agenda item, public comments. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on topics not otherwise on the agenda? Seeing none, I just want to let the record reflect that Mr. Bahave has joined us. Mary Rose, can you introduce us to D1, please?
Because I can't unmute it or mute it. See, like, I don't know.
I can mute you, Mr. Oxer. Item D1, old business, IWC 230014, 68 Surf Avenue, and City of Milford, Willow Street right of way. This is the violation that was issued 12/28/23 for work in a wetland and 100-foot upland review area without a permit at 68 Surf Avenue. The agency upheld the violation at our meeting on January 17th. At our meeting on February 7th, the agency modified the violation to require a map or sketch or drawing showing the structures and improvements be submitted for determination if they are permittable under Section 4 of the MIWA regulations, as uses of permitted as of right. The agency needs to ensure that the improvements that are being asked to permit are on the property at 68 Surf Avenue. Ms. McDonald submitted a sketch on 2/16. It is in the meeting documents along with Section 4 of the regulations. Ms. McDonald is here this evening to answer your questions, and I will share that screen right now so you can see the plan.
Thank you, Mary Rose. Before Ms. McDonald, before I give the floor to you to add anything to the record, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge what we discussed in the last meeting, and it is a matter of the minutes. We did specify that we need location-specific information as to where certain components were, and I understand from speaking with Mary Rose. After receiving this, I did speak with Mary Rose, and Mary Rose did mention to me that she gave you guidance to use a GIS map to orient the specific location of certain items. And that's something that we're going to need from you. So I believe we need to uphold this violation and give you an opportunity to respond to Mary Rose's instructions. Because the concern, as Mary Rose mentioned earlier in this meeting, and as we discussed in the last meeting, is we can't statutorily approve something that has no basis for where the location of certain things are. So while this is a good sketch, it doesn't have the GIS rendering that Mary Rose gave you via the email that she sent to you, that she mentioned to me she hasn't received a response from you on. So I'm just going to turn it over to Mary Rose. For Mary Rose, maybe you could kind of recap what I just said and make sure it's clear. And then I'll turn it over to you, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Right, we received this map from Ms. McDonald. I responded with an email to a program called Map Express that's on the city GIS site. It gives you a kind of a quick and dirty look at what your property looks like, and then you can quick and easy sketch in your pool or your shed or your deck, things like that, to kind of help folks show where their improvements are proposed when they don't have a survey. I didn't hear from Mrs. McDonald. I don't know if she had an opportunity to go there or not to see. I'm trying to call up the map now so she can see what it looks like. But it's a rendition of this with the aerial photo taken out. So it would just kind of look like this. It comes out yellow, but then you have a rough idea where your property boundaries are, and you can sketch in your structures. The question we have on this lot, and GIS is an imperfect tool. As you can see, the parcel boundary is here. The folks next door fence is here. Is their fence over the lot line? Is GIS imperfect and it doesn't show, maybe the lot line is 5 or 10 feet this way, which would put it 5 or 10 feet this way, which would mean the improvements, instead of being in the right of way, would actually be on the property. So we can't tell.
So Ms. McDonald, I'm just going to turn it over to you, but I'll just preface it by saying we've been very accommodative, trying to balance the statute and your combination of your cooperation and also the constraints that you're trying to operate within in terms of not hiring a surveyor. But it is incumbent upon you to supply us with relevant information in order for us to move forward. So we're getting closer, but we're not going to be able to take a decision tonight on this application without you submitting this information that, as Mary Rose explained, or taking the alternative path of investing in, a land survey map. If that's your prerogative, we can't make that decision for you. We just statutorily cannot move forward in the manner in the information that we're presented this evening. So I'll turn it over to you for comment.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to start off by saying I'm actually kind of nervous. I feel like there's a committee against me, so I just wanted to put that out there because my voice is a little shaky. So what I took from our last meeting was a request to make a sketch and some suggestions on how to do that. I went about it the best way I thought. When Mary Rose emailed me and I did go and look at the GIS map, there is a disclaimer at the bottom of that map that basically says it's not accurate, it's for reference only, and then, blah, 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 basically saying that's not something that can be relied on as fact at all. So as I kind of weighed it all out and looked at trying to redraw that on that map where it's clearly stating it's not accurate, I didn't see the purpose of doing that. And again, taking into consideration all of the accommodations I've provided, I've allowed you on my property, we've done pictures, you have aerial photos, and so I don't know what else to say. Like, I'm not comfortable trying to draw something on a map that says in black and white is not accurate, when I don't see what the difference is now. We're getting between two inaccurate maps. Like, I've provided you the structures, I've provided you the dimensions, the square of the property, overlaid with everything else. I feel like I have satisfied what you're asking me to do for something that we're not even sure if there is even any issues. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like,
Okay, would you like me to respond?
Sure.
Okay, great. Listen, we are a committee of 11. That is a fact. We are working with you. We're not against you. We're citizens of Milford. I understand your feeling. We can certainly have you go into the office and work with Mary Rose directly. But as I said earlier, we're not going to be able to approve or release this violation based on the information you presented. So you're at choice. You can choose to work with Mary Rose directly, or you can choose to document and hire a land surveyor, or you can choose for the final option, which leaves us in no other position but to refer this matter to the city attorney. We are held by statute. So I appreciate your point about, quote, being accommodative, but we've been accommodative. We're following the law. We're not trying to be punitive. So I wouldn't position it as that way.
It feels that way because I don't know that we're
That's
doing
not-
we've got gardens, we're growing vegetables.
It's
like-
a violation. It's a violation. That's a simple fact.
Well-
This is no longer a back and forth. No longer a back and forth.
I need to weigh those three options, and I will be back in touch with you guys because it's a lot to think about. I'm
No problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, you're gonna need to modify the order,
Indeed.
because the dates need to be updated.
Yep. I would propose that we modify the violation to give the homeowner the opportunity to come back to us before the next meeting. Or if this agency is of the prerogative that we refer the violation to the city attorney, I'm happy with that motion as well.
Feeling is the only way we're gonna get an accurate map is to have a surveyor survey the property and place the buildings and structures where they truly are, whether
That's
on the city right away or her property.
what I tried to explain, but
I know you did a good job of it.
there's only one way of listening. So if
She
that means,
wasn't listening. She wasn't listening.
right, so if that means referring her to the city attorney, so be it.
Mary Rose, would it be, I'm sorry, may I speak?
Yes, yes.
Would it be, maybe you can reach out to her when she's had a moment to cool down? And it seems to me like basically she just needs to take her map that she drew and sort of impose it on that GIS map, which
The GIS
will
map is not
satisfy what
accurate.
we're looking for.
Yeah, but we don't know that the GIS map is accurate.
That's okay, because it's just an estimated sketch, right?
No, it's gotta be a true sketch. Because the structures cannot be on the city property.
That's the concern. That's the
Okay.
complication factor. Ms. Valvo and Mary Rose, just before I give the floor to Mr. Ritchie, Mary Rose, can you just kind of make that distinction that you made earlier around?
Sure, I'm gonna, if I can share my screen for a moment, Mr. Chair. I'm gonna show you, I unfortunately couldn't type fast enough to get this on the screen earlier. This is a rough map. It's on city's GIS system. It's called Map Express. We hand this out when people are doing sheds or de minimis improvements, so they can show a rough idea of where the improvements are on their property in relation to their structures. And then staff can figure out if they need to get a survey or if it's approvable, if it's in its dimensions, it's within the building envelopes. The problem stems that the way the GIS is positioned, the improvements are here, which is in a city right of way. Another alternative is to approach the city with her neighbor. There's a house here now, to have the city abandon this right of way. that would also involve someone wanting to purchase this city property that's back here. There's other options that can be explored.
Wasn't that option offered to the homeowner in the beginning of the violation process?
When zoning officer Harris and I were in the field, we talked about that, yes. Because both homeowners, and you'll be seeing a violation to the adjacent owner, both homeowners have encroached on the area.
Okay.
And so it seems like an amicable way to solve that, but it's not for me to make that decision for the homeowners. We responded to a complaint. We need to solve it. There's things that are provable as a use permitted as of right underneath the regulations, but the agency has to, at a minimum, know that they're approving something on a property.
That the owner is entitled to.
Right. If we were to issue a permit on something that's not on someone's property or is on city land, then when the city goes to use that land, it becomes an issue. So
Right.
we very early on in my career, we had a case where there wasn't a signature on an application and it became a problem. So we need a landowner signature and we need to know that they own that land.
Right. And at this point, we cannot take that responsibility on for the owner. Much like it said, and Mr. Matthew Connors, you have the floor.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Mary Rose, because this information was new to me. Maybe it was brought up in the last meeting that I wasn't here for. Just curious. So now that you say that the homeowner is encroaching on, that's the city's private right of way there, both sides are encroaching on that?
When the city was laid out or when areas were laid out, there's something that's called a paper street. When they take raw land, they lay out, I can probably show you much better on this map. They lay out paper streets. So this street is Willow Street and it extended, and there were streets that probably went through the park before the state made it a park. And so this is Overton and this extends down to here. This is a paper street. This is, and they're called paper streets because they're streets in name only. They're only on paper. Sometimes ownership is retained by the developer. Sometimes the ownership is difficult to search down. Typically it falls to the owners on either side to petition the city to abandon the paper street. And then the land falls to the people on either side. So they would, as they kind of are doing now, they would split this right of way. The rub in the ointment is that this parcel here is a landlocked, it then would become a landlocked piece of city land, and we can't landlock ourselves. So, you know, that's something that needs to be resolved by the owners if they even want to do that. This area is wetlands. There's not much, they're not going to be able to fill it or enlarge their yards. So
I guess that's what my question is. Did they encroach? Because if it's the case, I think it makes it a little bit more complicated. Did they encroach on city-owned inland wetland?
The map for this house was yard that belonged to this property over here. It was yard, it was all grass yard, but the wetland did come in an arc and it landed here in the city property. Now, did it come back down? I don't have data on this property, so I don't know. And we don't know if this is city. We don't know if this is city or if it is their own property. We don't know.
Right.
So with that, in your opinion, guys.
I'm sorry, Connors. I'm sorry. Could you just hold? Mr. Ricky has had his hand up for a while.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Commissioner. I think you were more than accommodating to her by offering Mary Rose's help to come into your office, her office, and sketch a more realistic map. I know some people have trouble drawing stick figures, but that's what that map looked like. And Mary Rose, I think, would be more than helpful in drawing a more realistic map. That was offered to her. She just didn't want to hear that. Maybe give her one more chance to come into the office if that's a viable option, and make an ultimate determination at the next meeting.
I
This
agree
way we exhaust every opportunity to to go to the legal avenues that we can take.
Exactly, Mr. Ritchie. And I would just add, as I said, Mary Rose did give guidance and we didn't get a response. So there was an opportunity that was lost there. And so back to you, Mr. Matthew Connors.
I agree with everything that was just said. The only thing I just wanted to add is I'm not sure if there was any sort of gap in information in terms of she seemed uncomfortable to put it in black and white from her, the way she mentioned it. And maybe that's something that we can clarify to her, is that this map, is this map a permanent map? I think that's what she was scared of. Like, if there's an error on it, is she going to be held accountable for that error? That's, I think, what her point of view was.
Through you, Mary Rose, can I comment on this?
Mr. Connors, you have the floor.
To even begin to draw a map here, even a layman's map, you've got to establish at least 1 or 2 boundary lines here to go off, and then take your measurements of that piece of property. And then maybe place the items where they, not items, excuse me, the structures where they are. But just drawing a square on a piece of paper is not even close. Number one, the lot's not square.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying, does
she have an as-built for the house?
No, there is not. No, we searched the record in zoning. There's no other drawing that would give us more
We don't
data.
even know if the house is in the right place on that lot.
It may have been data that was lost in the flood. I don't know, but there is no file, and there's not a file in zoning that has a map.
Okay.
Yeah. And Mr. Matthew Connors, to your point, that's why Mary Rose reached out to the owner. And, no response doesn't justify, accommodations either. So I don't think we need to belabor the point. We've been very clear and given guidance. This is a responsibility of the violator, and we need to, respect that.
And if I may, just one more clarification through you, Mr. Chair. It seems to me, based on how this conversation has gone, that there really is no way other than getting an actual survey done of the property to truly establish what the property lines are. How can we otherwise go about that without having that survey at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I take your point to Mary Rose. I would just say, Mary Rose, the disclaimer, to the point that the owner mentioned that she had discomfort with the disclaimer that the map may not be accurate. We haven't had an opportunity to discuss that. She never responded with that concern, so it really wasn't something we could respond to. But Mary Rose, can you give some advice about whether that disclaimer has any merit, or if that's an acceptable risk that we all are comfortable taking, to Commissioner Valvo's point, or are we in a position where we should just require a survey?
This is this disclaimer, sorry. It's standard on all maps that we produce on our GIS. GIS inherently has some errors in it. It's made up of a compilation of layers. There's a parcel layer that has, the city's assessors maps that are at 100 scale that were digitized in. There's an aerial layer that digitized in the houses from the fire department. There's a compilation of layer upon layer, and much like a layer cake that gets too tall, things might shift a little bit left and right. So the reason GIS maps have a disclaimer is because as you load things on them, your accuracy can get off. And in this case, is Willow Street, through their driveway and next to their garage, or is it over here? I don't have better data than this. I have this, and somewhat based on the same information, I have this. The parcel lines are very hard to see for this lot. It's highlighted in orange here.
Mm-hmm.
In reality,
sorry, Mary, to cut you off, but I think the point I'm trying to get to here is that's a good distinction you're making about, hey, it's a caveat that goes across all layers. But is that sufficient? Is knowing that there's potential deviations, for lack of a better way, is that acceptable? I believe it is. I believe it's an acceptable risk.
I think for most things it is. I think where Miss McDonald, and we haven't had a chance to discuss it, where she might have had some anxiety about it is the structures that she would have to draw in to be accurate to this map. Again, it's the same map. It's just, if I take the satellite off, maybe that'll be helpful. The structure she has are to the left of this building. And this wetland layer is an old wetland layer from the deep. We don't know how accurate that is either. So, this, there's a shed here, there's a shed here. The greenhouse is probably about here. And then the pool's over here, as you can see from
Okay.
the layer. So the anxiety may have been that to draw it in shows it's not on her land.
Understood. Commissioner Vowell, did that answer your question?
Just one more question in regards to that right of way. We're putting the onus on the homeowner to prove her property line. Could the onus be on the city of Milford to prove the right of way? Like if there is nothing in writing as to where exactly that right of way is, how does that fall?
Hmm.
Good point. I can ask legal if I can have engineering, as they have timed survey points. They would probably pull these 4 points. There's recent survey data from when this house was built, so the research would be minimal to pull that.
Sounds
Just
like
another way to go about getting that boundary.
All right, so I will talk to CAO and engineering to get that on their list of places to survey.
And do we have a motion to extend the violation for, what's the next meeting date? Sorry.
The next meeting date would be March 6th. Typically we ask for a deadline the week before so that you have time to review it. But what is it we're asking? A more accurate.
Well, a GIS rendering, as you had explained, a depiction of the site features, the property features on a GIS rendering on this.
I have a question, if I may.
Mr. Connors.
Mary Rose, you said the city has documentation on the house next door.
Yes, we do.
That it was recently built.
Yes,
So,
we do.
and does the city, or do you have the actual dimensions of that right away?
It's 30 feet.
Okay, so if we established the property line from the house next door and came 30 feet off that property line, we'd know where her property line is on that side of the house.
Correct. We would have to ask engineering to do it because they'd have to do it with appropriate equipment, but yes.
Well, I mean, even if you really wanted to get a judgment, you could use a tape measure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to call that property up to see if I have access to the map. Correct. That's what engineering would do, is they'd pull the map, they'd pull our street maps, and they would pull the newest
The
or
actual
latest data.
right away.
And then they could survey off of that.
Great. I think that's a great suggestion, Commissioner Valvo and Commissioner Connors. I think, Mary Rose, we need to allow at least a month for this activity to happen.
Mhm.
And to give you a chance to connect back with the owner.
Okay.
To guide them down this process. So I feel like we have a plan, and I'd like to hear a motion to that effect.
Make
So
a motion to that.
So our second meeting in March is the 20th. You'd be looking for information around the 14th.
Sounds good.
Or,
And you'd be looking for a more accurate rendering of the structures on the property.
And hopefully the city can give us a property line to the right of way, then that would establish the problem here, is it or isn't it?
correct.
Got it.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That a motion, I'll second it if that was a motion.
Yeah,
Think it was
Mary,
a
Rose,
good
want to
motion.
take time to write us and restate the motion?
I move that cease and desist order IWC 230014 68 Surf Ave and City of Milford right of way, Willow Street right of way be modified, and that by 3/14/24, the property owner be required to submit a more accurate rendering of the structures on the property. Or in relation to the property line. I don't know exactly.
And that, Mary Rose, you will work with the city to establish the right-of-way property line based on the building adjacent to the
The only
property.
property owners.
Right, I'll put a request in to the engineer. I can't commit that they're gonna have that done by that period of time. I can't commit other department staff.
And yeah, no, the motion is that you will request it.
Yes. I'll use that as my motion if I may.
Okay, the motion's been made by Mr. Jim Connors. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Valvo seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Lisa, roll call vote.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Ranjit Bahav,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Matthew Connors,
Aye.
Steve Munson,
Aye.
Nick Ritchie,
Aye.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
Aye. Oh, great. Thanks. The motion carries. Thanks, Mary Rose, for assisting between now and the meeting on the 20th.
Can I just clarify two things? That was Mr. Connors and Ms. Valvo.
Correct.
And the second half of the motion directed at staff, not at property owner, was to request review of the Willow Street right of way by city
adjoining-
departments.
The adjoining
The
property.
engineering department.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to D2. Mary Rose, do you want to give us an orientation on this one?
Sure. The D2 is 50 Bolt Lane. One second while I multitask. It's IW 24003, and it's an application by Patrick Oxer for a 24 by 24 prefab garage and asphalt driveway extension with the proposed garage has been located by Andrew Flanagan on a survey. We asked for an updated survey last time, and the soil report was submitted by Soil Science Environmental Services. This is located in the Wepwag River watershed, where we have a 150-foot upland review area. The proposed garage, everybody can see that. The proposed garage is approximately 64 feet from the wetland, and the driveway is about 31 feet from the wetland. Mr. Oxer had his surveyor put a silt fence on the property, show on the map where he'd put a silt fence to protect any runoff when they excavate for the driveway and the footing for the shed from going into the wetland. And they've put a small stockpile here next to the jungle gym for any dirt that they might come off of here. Mr. Oxford has committed, there's a couple of low spots on the property he'd like to fill in, none of which are near the wetland. At the last meeting, we also talked about having wetland boundary markers put along the wetland area. So Mr. Oxford and potential any other owners would know where the wetlands are on their site, as the wetland flags do fade and disappear over time. Mr. Oxer is here this evening to answer any of your questions, and I also have photos on the site if you would like.
Thank you, Mary Rose. I don't think we need the photos. I think we've received the application. Unless there's any new testimony, Mr. Oxer, do you want to just introduce yourself for the record? Maybe Mary Rose can help with the unmute button.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Patrick Oxer. Yep, how are you?
Okay, great. Thanks very much. Is there anything new you wanted to add since the last meeting?
No, just that, they put the silt fence in and just updated some of that stuff. So other than that, no.
Okay, great. To the commission, are there any questions outstanding that you may have? Do we have a motion for this matter?
Make a motion, Brendan.
Mr. Chairman, before you read the motion, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
Does the agency wish to have this project bonded? It would require Mr. Oxer to put up a $4,100 bond for the silt fence and an as-built, or
Yeah.
does the agency require that?
That is standard, and I believe that should be applied as standard, unless you have a different opinion, Ms. Mary Rose.
I think it's a fairly straightforward application. I agree that it'll give in the future a plan to draw any other outbuildings on that's accurate and up to date. I just wanted to make sure that the agency was aware of the costs of that.
I'm open to suggestions, but that's my view.
The other thing I might comment is, does it have to be that amount of money for the amount of disturbance that's gonna happen here for what he's doing?
That's an agency decision. In the past, we've lowered bonding amounts. Silt fence at $100 is probably roughly a little bit more than it would cost to buy this and install it. $4,000 was a number that the agency decided upon because if as-builts were significantly less, people were just not doing them. You know, if we put an as-built at $500, it was less than it cost to get it done, and so they weren't turning them in.
Okay,
We could certainly lower that number. Mr. Oxer has a plan. I don't know what Mr. Flanagan charges for an as-built. I didn't ask that. Mr. Oxer's certainly been compliant with all our requests so far, so it's the agency's discretion.
do you think half of that would cover an as-built, Mary Rose?
I would think it should, because
I haven't done one in a long time, so I don't know.
Yeah, I would think it should, because the majority of the data is there. It's probably an hour or so to get the data and another hour to put it on. Does the agency want to reduce the proposed bonding?
I'm for it.
Makes sense to me. It's a pragmatic approach.
Okay, and do you have an amount?
$2,000?
Uh,
All right. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Any other ideas or considerations from the agency before we incorporate that into the motion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Connors.
Mr. Chairman, after duly considering all relevant factors, I move to approve application IW 24-0003, 50 Bolt Lane, based on the plans entitled Survey of Property Prepared for Patrick B. Oxer and Sophia L. Oxer, a parcel designated as number 50 Bolt Lane, situated in the city of Milford, New Haven County, state of Connecticut, by Flanagan Surveying and Mapping, one sheet dated 1/17/24, revised 2/15/24. The information in the file was presented this evening for the following reasons. This action will not have an impact or effect on the physical characteristics of the adjacent wetlands and watercourses, with conditions including the permitting must submit a construction plan prior to taking out the permit, soil erosion and sedimentation controls as outlined on the plans, and in the Connecticut DEP 2002 erosion sedimentation control guidelines must be installed and maintained on the site, and if the property is stabilized, compliance with the city engineer's requirements for stormwater. The permitting must have a wetlands boundary markers installed on the site along the wetlands line at 25-foot intervals. A bond of $2,000 must be posted with the MIWA for S&E controls, border plantings, wetland boundary markers, and an as-built showing finished 2-foot contours, and locating all site structures. Wetland notification to be placed on the as-built in the property deed to give notification to property owners that the permits are required from the MIWA to work on the site. Documentation to be submitted to the MIWA office prior to bond release. Permit is issued 2/21/24 and expires 2/21/29 unless otherwise provided by statute. That is my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Connors. That's, we have a motion. Do we have a second on the floor?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Matthew Connors. Any discussion on the motion? My only question was just in relation to the draft motion. It did include the $2,000 bond relative to a number of items, including border plantings. And I just don't recall there being border plantings involved in the application.
You're absolutely right, Brandon.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I might interrupt, that's a typo on my part. That's a standard condition. This project did not call for border planting.
Can we scratch that from my motion, please?
Okay, so that would need to be in the form of an amendment to the main motion. So is that what you're amending, Mr. Connors?
Yes.
And do we have a second on that amendment?
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion on that, on the amendment to the main motion? Hearing none, Lisa, could you please call the roll on the amendment to the main motion?
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Ranjit Bahav,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Matthew Connors.
Aye.
Steve Munson,
Aye.
Nick Ritchie,
Aye.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
Aye. Okay, now back to the main motion on the floor, which, any further discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, Lisa, roll call vote.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Ranjit Bahav,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Matthew Connors.
Aye.
Steve Munson,
Aye.
Nick Ritchie,
Aye.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Mr. Oxer, thanks for coming before the agency and working so closely with Mary Rose. Thanks for hiring the expert that you did, investing in this design. It's very well designed, as you could tell from the unanimous approval from the agency. Good luck on the project.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mary Rose will be in touch with regards to all the formalities that we just agreed to, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Consideration of the minutes for the previous meeting. Do we have a motion to accept those meeting minutes from February 7th,
Motion.
2024? Mr. Jim Connors, do you have a second on the motion?
Second.
Second from Mr. Ritchie. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Lisa, roll call vote.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Ranjit Bahav,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors. Jim,
Aye. Aye.
Matthew Connors,
Abstain.
Steve Munson,
Abstain.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Thanks for the abstains for those that weren't at the meeting. Great diligence. Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Mary Rose, do you want to do a staff report, please?
Thank you. Item F, staff report. Office continues to answer inquiries with minor reviews and submit reports to other departments as required. We've gotten our first 2 pool requests this week. You'll see them in the next several weeks before the agency. Spring's here a little early. Citizens have been noting the higher water volumes in their streams and ponds. The drought report puts us at a 96% rate of soil moisture, which means our waters, our ponds and rivers will be running a little bit higher and don't have a lot of headroom when we get these large rain events. So just to be aware of that. We do have another rain event coming, I think tomorrow night into the weekend, and then some more next week. Can you please remember to call or email me if you're unable to attend a meeting? And other than that, my information's in the notes. We did submit the community rating system report. We have not got our evaluation back yet to remain in the CRS program. Hopefully we'll have that before our next meeting. MS4, working with DPW and engineering, and that will be posted this week. Taft has added the FOIA link to your reference page, which includes all of our meeting dates, regulations, bylaws, ethics guidelines, and past memos from city attorney's office on cases and training opportunities. If you do, to the new members, when you complete your DEP training, if you could send me your certificates so we have them on file in the office. And if you have any questions on that, please give me a call. Taft has taken the class as well. He's certified. So if you have any questions, you can also ask him. We've had no real movement on projects. I have a couple of as-builts to look at. I'm hoping to get those bond releases up and ready to go this week. And other than that, does anyone have any questions?
No questions from me. I just want to comment that Mary Rose, appreciate you working with the owner. I would just acknowledge that it's clear violations are uncomfortable, but we need to balance the statute and, you know, your assistance in and hopefully her cooperation and involvement in the process will continue. So.
Our goal is always to help to bring them into compliance. A lot of violations simply don't know any better. And to help work with them to bring them into compliance.
Indeed. Great, thanks. Moving on to chair's report. Just as a friendly reminder, the next meeting will be March 6th. I did observe Alder Beatty was in the audience. Alder Beatty, just wanted to invite you to say hello as our
Hello, how
lead.
are you? Forgive the, I came late. There was a budget hearing tonight, so thank you for including me. I appreciate it. And
Well,
I'm hiding a little.
Okay. Okay, thank you for joining and your interest in the agency. What you missed was, I believe, a third conversation with an owner who's in violation of a wetlands regulation. And unfortunately, she was uncomfortable with the discussion. We've encouraged her to get with Mary Rose directly between now, and she'll probably see this recording, but she'll get another email from Mary Rose. But as a general rule, just wanted to acknowledge we appreciate your interest in the agency as an Alder liaison.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay. Are there any commissioners who would like to address Alder Beatty at all? Any further than I did? Open. Okay. Great. Thank you, everyone. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion. We adjourn.
Motion's been made. And do we have a second?
Oh.
Mr. Matthew Connors. Lisa, roll call vote.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Ranjit Bahav,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors. Jim?
Aye. Aye.
Matthew Connors?
Aye.
Steve Munson?
Aye.
Nick Ritchie?
Aye.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Brenda Magnan.
Aye, the motion carries unanimously. Good evening, everyone. Have a great night. Great
Good night.
weeks.
Good night.
You too.
Thank
Thanks
you all.
very much, Lisa.
Have a good
Good
evening.
night.
Thanks, Lisa.